Hi, so the goal of this video is to give you an overview about this cash flow pacing model for alternative investments, such as investments into venture capital funds or, for example, private equity. So the model is structured into several parts. The green sheets are going to give you a summary overview of your entire portfolio. Then there are blue calls assumptions. Then there are individual funds. Fund 1, Fund 2, Fund 3, or any other. You can name them as you like. And then there are several technical sheets such as the ruler, checks, and controls. I'll first dive into the individual investment tabs, and then we will look at the individual summary tabs. So jumping into the Fund 1 tab. The structure of all these tabs is of course the same. On top you'll see a summary section that's going to show you several KPIs, either actuals or projected. Then there is a section for inputs and several charts. Then there is a section for quarterly inputs of actuals. The model is structured in yearly periods, but the input for actuals are quarterly. Then there is the standard cash flow pacing chart that you're gonna see in many other many other cash flow pacing models. And then there are the individual parts of the model per each fund. So up top you're going to see the rolling cash flow pacing and net asset value model. Rolling, that means that it partly consists of the actuals, and then it consists of on the projections that however reflect the actual development to date. Then there is the model of the actuals, initial projections. The initial projections are there just so that you can keep track of what the initial assumptions were. Then there is the transition or the section that helps the model understand how to bridge the gap between actuals and the projected future development. And then there are a few more technical parts. So bring this up again, what you would see here in the master input section is the name of the fund. I can zoom in a little. Name of the fund, then whether the cash flow pacing for calls is based on a manual individual input for this specific investment, or whether it takes the expected curve based on the assumptions sheet. Same goes for the distribution pacing. You can either set a specific distribution pattern, or you can use the Takahashi Alexander model for this, which is implemented in this spreadsheet, and that actually takes the number of years of the fund life, it takes the bow, it takes the yield, and it takes the projected annual growth to arrive at the expected distributions per year. So, for example, we can skip a few periods in here and plug in some data some actuals, just to demonstrate how this works. I'll plug in the end of year data and for 2025 and 2026, and all these cells need to be populated. If they're not, you're gonna get a red warning, so I'll just plug in zeros everywhere. And so now you see that these values of actuals, they were exactly as projected, because the chart is not moving. However, we could say that for example, distributions were a little faster in here, and the pacing of calls might have been faster as well. and instantly the model starts to adjust based on the actual inputs that deviate slightly or vary from what was initially expected. The other charts that you can see here, the one on the top right shows you the IRR to date and TVPI DPI. These other two charts show you the commitment, calls, and total value of the investment. So if I jump from here into the projected summary tab, you will see the same structure of the tab on the projected summary and actual summary as well. The tab starts with an investment overview, fund by fund, showing you key attributes and then key KPIs. Then you have the same chart again, this time on a portfolio level. And then you have the same structure of data that is repeated throughout the model on this sheet, on the actuals, and on each sheet per individual funds. And that is the rolling calls line, then net asset value, distributions, cash flow, then the major cumulative values, and then the KPIs. So if I, for example, jump on the individual fund sheet and scroll down a little, you will see the same structure over and over. So although the model has quite a lot of lines, you won't get lost because the structure is everywhere almost the same. Going back to projected summary, you can see on a portfolio level the two charts that you're already familiar with. Then there is a cash flow fund by fund, and the last section allows you to group the investments based on sponsor or a GP, and that way evaluate the performance of individual GPs. Same structure is on the actual sheet, and then there is the variance analysis that shows you the difference between the initial projections and the actual performance or development of each fund. Difference in calls, net asset value, distributions, and the major KPIs. The model is designed in a way that allows you to easily expand it so that you can add funds as necessary. In this version there are actually 3 different funds, as you can see on the tabs here down on the bottom of the screen. You can just grab a fund, hit Control or Command on Mac, duplicate the fund, rename it, name it in this example fund 4, give it a new name, e.g. new fund, and you're instantly going to see it on most of these dashboards. You can see that we've got an alert over here, and that means that we've done something that might not work properly. Let's go into checks where you can see the detail, and you will see that the fund 4 is not included in the investment GP overview. And the principle that I'm going to illustrate now is how you can expand the model practically everywhere where you can see insert rows above. So if you have more and more funds, you can easily add rows and the model is just gonna work. In this case, we don't have the new fund in the section down here. We can either decide if it's a sponsor 1, if it's a sponsor 2, or if it is a new sponsor. In this case, I'm going to add the fund under the sponsor 2, so I'm going to go add a new row, duplicate the formulas below, change the name to fund 4, do the same on the actuals. You still can see that we are not done here yet. Do the same on actuals. And by the way, this process that I'm doing right now is described step by step on the cover sheet, and you could always reach out to me as well to simply give you a template that already has enough slots for your purposes. So we've added a fund over here, the alert has has disappeared. You'll just check that the fund 4 is truly linked to GP2, and we are set. We have just added a new fund, expanded the model, and the only issue we had was with the GPs. So this was a quick overview. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer any, and you can just go ahead, download the model, purchase it, or reach out.